Welcome back to the Rowdy Studio. I am Buzz Cutler. This is Bass Masters. And Bass, I love the comparison that you drew a little bit earlier in one of our other videos when you talked about some iconic moments. You were talking NFL, the drive, John Elway, the catch, Dwight Clark, the immaculate reception, which you didn't mention, but you could put that up there.
Yep,
right?
Franco Harris.
And now we've got the call by Darian Grubb.
I think we do.
A call that I think both you and I thought was maybe a little misguided when it first came down.
Right.
Now, I thought it was misguided because Tony Stewart had such command of the racetrack. Why are you taking it out of his hands? Let him race head-to-head with Carl Edwards. Obviously, he's getting it done. You know, put your money on him. That's why I thought it was a little misguided.
Well, I think so, too. I mean, when the caution flew when it did, I wondered at that time, how close are we to making this now a one-stop race from here? How close are we? And I don't know, and no one was really talking about that on the broadcast or on Twitter or anything. So it was just in the back of my head. I'm like, I think the fuel one is like 52, and this would be like a 56 or 55 if you split it up. I'm like, I don't know if anyone's going to try that, but I didn't think it would have an impact on the championship for the reason that you state, which is that Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards are essentially running at parity. So why are you going to slow Tony down and give up track position? But I think when you think about it, and I'd love to, we got to try to break this down a little bit. What Darian Grubb was able to do was say, look, if I can make this a one-stop race and keep Tony on the lead lap, and there's rain in the area, and I don't know what's going on.
And there's enough race left that we're bound to have a caution.
There's enough race left that I can make up that track position, but I still make it a one-stop race. Now I'm kind of in the driver's seat. I kind of control things from a strategic perspective. So maybe he wasn't, but the fact that he stayed on the lead lap, okay, while doing that. I know he gave up positions and he gave up speed, but he didn't give up lead lap track position. So I think that, to me, was the key to the call, as I'm thinking it through here, that maybe he wasn't giving up quite as much as initially we all thought he was giving up by slowing Smoke down. I think the real risk was that he would run Tony out of gas.
Which he did run out of gas on pit road. But what I love about what you just said is that he put his team, he put his driver in the driver's seat. What Darian Grubb did is he forced Bob Osborne to react to what Darian Grubb, had just done. He took the offense and put the 99, maybe not in a defensive position, but certainly in a reactive position, so that in some ways Darian Grubb dictated what the 99 had to do, and I think that was key.
The other thing I think you got to think about is this: just Carl Edwards couldn't have made that call. Carl Edwards didn't have the mileage to make that
Ford
call.
Could not stretch that fuel like that.
So Darian Grubb, I don't know if he knew that or sensed that or whether he was just thinking about his own race car, but there was no way Carl Edwards could match that call. So in that sense, he had to do something different to compensate for it. And when it all came through, with the rain and the this and the that and the other thing.
And that caution right after the call.
Certainly that helped the call work out, okay? But when it all was said and done, where did Darian Grubb leave Tony Stewart? He left Tony Stewart with fresher tires and track position on Carl Edwards.
And fresher tires, I think, was the key, because that's why Carl Edwards...
And what else do you want your crew... What else can a crew chief do for a driver other than give him the right car and make the right calls to put him out front with fresher rubber? I mean, that's just brilliant. And here's the other aspect to it. When we know the backstory now, we know that Darian Grubb, okay,
already knew he was out of a job.
Already knew he was out of a job. But think about it like this, Cutler. Think about it like this. What did Tony Stewart have to do? He had to put his 100% trust and faith for a wacky call that he was questioning. Like, you realize I'm going to have to slow down a lot. I can't keep up the same pace.
Which do you prefer?
He had to put his faith in a guy that he basically had let go a few weeks ago and put his total 100% faith in him and say, we're still a team and I will be the driver. And he's the owner, by the way. He's the owner. He's not just the driver. But I'm just going to be the driver. I'm going to do exactly what you tell me to do, and I trust you.
That's a really good point.
That bond there, the action on both those guys' parts, because as I said before, I think the reason the team decided to let Darian Grubb go back in Charlotte, you kind of understand from the perspective of that time frame. But the way both those guys handled it, to me, again, is very, very impressive.
You almost got to think that Tony is questioning his decision, and they're rethinking this firing, this relationship.
Of course.
And Darian Grubb, I mean, he didn't say, "Oh yes, I would come back if they asked me," but he said, "Look, I want to be part of this organization."
That was his goal, right?
How
he wasn't looking to go anywhere.
How can they not be rethinking this unless
Well, they may have made other plans.
Unless there was some sort of communication or chemistry issue that we're just not privy to, and very well could be the case.
Well, when things aren't going well, if you feel like you're slipping, then sometimes you make changes. And it doesn't necessarily mean a guy's not good at his job either. But I think what we've proven now, or what we've seen now, is that Darian Grubb and Tony Stewart have something special. At least they certainly have for the last 10 weeks.
They have.
Now, you might be forced to give that up because of decisions you've already made, and that's just life.
And let's just say, I mean, we've sort of talked around it, but let's just very directly say, Tony Stewart drove the wheels off that car, but that win and this championship is just as much Darian Grubb's, in my opinion.
It's a team thing,
as it is Tony Stewart's. Just as much Darian Grubb's as it is Tony Stewart's.
Well, certainly when you go back to the calls in the first 2 races of the chase. And bearing in mind, as we said before, Tony needed every last little stinking point. He needed every one of those 5 wins. Everybody questioned it. Nobody bought into it at first. And then it started to make sense as laps got ticked off. I don't know how he did it. I mean, it was amazing. It was the call.
And he went to Virginia Tech, which makes no sense at all. How do you go to Virginia Tech and then be able to make a really
I don't see Hokies making this kind of call very often.
You make an intelligent decision with a Virginia Tech education.
Well, since now you point that out that he went to Tech.
Must have been dumb luck.
Must have been luck, yeah.
All right.
We're kidding.
Thanks for, kinda. Thanks for watching That's Bassmasters. I'm Buzz Cutler. Go Who's.
You can't end it like that. Go Who's.
Why not?
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.